Hey guys, this is blah, blah, blah. Let's try that again. Hey guys, it is Gwen here from Olive and Oak, and today we are going to be opening up our January subscription box. If you're one of our subscribers, you got your box. I believe the last of them were set to be delivered this morning. I do have some that are still here at the shop ready for pickup, so if you're going to come pick yours up and you don't want to know what's in there, go ahead and skip this video for right now and come back to it when you have your kit. This will be available for you to watch whenever. But I want to open this up. If you are local, it came in a cute little bag like this. And you might notice when you get it that there are two projects because I couldn't decide on one. And so we ended up with two projects this month. One we're going to paint tonight. The other one is considered a bonus project. And it's done very similar to the way we're going to do the one I'm painting this evening. So we've got you covered for both Valentine's Day and St. Patrick's Day. Truth be told, I had planned on this being something that could be reversible, but after I cut all my pieces, I realized that I did not make them the right sizes. So now it is two separate kits, so you can paint them at different times if you want to get some crafting in this month, and then again in February if you want to paint your March one or your St. Patrick's Day one, then that'd be great, because our next boxes won't go out until March. But let's go ahead and dive into what all is in here. So of course you've got both kits that have all of your wood pieces, your picture, and then this has instructions on it as well. And then you have your little goodie bag of supplies. I'm gonna click on my computer just to double check that if there are comments, I can see them, because sometimes the computer likes to be funny like that. Hopefully I can see things if they decide to pop up. If I make this bigger. Oh, I can make that part bigger. Cool. I haven't gone live with a regular camera like this in a long time, so this is great. So we're gonna pull this part up. So in your little goodie bag of supplies, we're gonna open this up in here. And we always tell you guys that when you purchase one of our subscription boxes, and most of our DIY kits actually, you're gonna get everything you need to put everything together. So you'll notice you have two paint strips this month. One of them is definitely more geared towards your colors for the St. Patrick's Day themed sign, and then the other one definitely has more of the Valentine's Day themes. When I painted mine for the Valentine's, I stuck with a pink, gray, white, and that kind of color scheme. But this one, when I painted, I'm gonna go with some of the reds, blacks, and whites, kind of that theme. So you can see two different versions of the way that this can look. With my St. Patrick's Day one, I went with more of the, you know, kind of gold tone orange, the greens, and a little bit of black as well. But let's tear into this. We've got our strips of paint, which also has our two glue pieces on there, and then there is, I just want to mention this so you guys know it. This one right here, it's going to be next to your gray on your more Valentine's Day strip, is a gold. It makes for really good accents. One tip I'll give you is if you're going to do the gold, layer it with something underneath it, and that goes with almost any gold paint. I really like, for a true gold color, to put black underneath it, but orange is a good option as well. In there, you're also going to find all kinds of these fun little sponges that are great for painting your pieces this month. You kind of set these aside, and I'll show you a trick on how to use those multiple times if you're going to paint for a little bit, put some stuff away, and then come back to it later. You'll find some of our favorite blue flat brushes. We're going to use that to help glue some things and possibly add some details. You'll have this little teeny tiny, this is a sanding block, little teeny tiny one if you want to add some distressing details or sand any of your project down. And then of course our little monthly, I would call it a postcard, but it's not quite the size of a postcard, that tells you a little bit about what is in your bag, the fact that we're going live right now to show you guys what's going on. The new code each month, or not each month, each time there's a box that goes out, there'll be a new discount code for our subscription box members. You get 10% off any other kits or workshops from us, and so your code is on there. And then if you are new to us or didn't get a chance to do it last month, there is a QR code in here as well to take our membership survey. There's questions on there about personalized options. If we should add something personalized into a future box, it asks you what initially you would want on there and all that sort of stuff. So if you haven't already done one of those, hop in there and do it. If you have done it, it's the same one. There's not new questions on there or anything like that, but I just wanted to give everybody a chance to get in there. But let's get to the fun part, the making the stuff. So I'm gonna get this guy opened up. Shout out to Jonathan, whose job is shrink wrapping all of these things, because that is not my most favorite thing to do in the world, but it makes everything look so much nicer and stay together. And that was one of the other perks to this not ending up being reversible, was that there is a full base and everything to wrap the kit separately, so you're not going, okay, is this a letter for the Lucky Charm one? Is this a piece for the Be My Valentine one? It makes them kind of two full kits that you can paint when you want to. All right, let's get that out of the way. Like I said, all of our projects do have an instruction sheet underneath them. So if you're not a video watcher kind of person, you just want the general rundown on how to do something, this is there too, but this video is also helpful. Set that aside, and then I can kind of start looking at my pieces. So keep in mind there are hearts all over the place. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of pull all of them out for right now and figure out where they go as I go. And there's no wrong way to do this. If you want to move hearts around, by all means move hearts around. But I'm going to start with my very, very background piece so that can kind of start getting painted and then dry. If you'll notice on the background, there's kind of these scored shapes that show you where these guys are going to line up with. And because of that, the only area you really have to paint on this is going to be the outside of the score lines. So I'm going to paint that part first because that's going to go pretty quickly. And like I said, for this one, I'm going to do more of the red, black, white Valentine's Day type look. So I am going to use black for my background. I'm going to take my sponge. I like to use this flatter part of the sponge so it kind of makes it like a, I don't know, almost like a pyramid, but kind of lopsided. I like to use this flatter part of my sponge when I'm painting with sponges. I'm going to pick up some of the paint on my sponge and wipe off on the edge, and then I'm going to dab. Rather than swiping with a sponge, this helps kind of keep everything on the face of your project and not get too funky. So hopefully you guys can see this. I'm just going to dab. And again, I'm mostly just focusing on kind of where this background piece is going to stick out around my project. So I'm going kind of just where the outlined sections are. I'm going to get in there and fill this in. And honestly, this part, especially since I'm using the black, you're not going to see a whole lot of it. Like this one, I did a white outline and you can't see it a whole lot, but it is there. So I do want to paint it. This part, don't get super hung up on perfect lines because you're going to cover most of it. This all filled in. I've had some people into the shop this week who probably think that I'm having a hunchback kind of day. I've had some sciatic nerve pain, so if you have come in and seen me hobbling around like a crazy person, I apologize. It's just been a week, so I'm excited to hang out with you guys today and paint for a little bit. We've been working on creating some new kids projects to put out on the shelves. I love doing seasonal stuff, but sometimes you just need things that are good for all times of the year. And one of the most requested ones, or most requested themes, I guess I would say, are more projects that are geared towards little hands. So we're kind of working on our kids and tweens type projects, and they should be pretty fun. Got all kinds of different themes. But I've been a little slower at that this week too, just trying to get my back to play nice. I've had about a dozen different people give me ideas on what to do, and I'm trying to do them from the stretches to, I don't know, all kinds of things. Using a heating pad, which I have not been good about at home, but I have heated seats in my car, and I love that so much. We were laughing about it last night with a couple of ladies saying, like, when you get to the age that you don't really care about the stereo system, you don't care about any of that sort of stuff, you are mostly concerned on whether or not you have heated seats that you can use all year round as a heating pad when you're driving to and from, you know, work, the grocery store, home. That's how you know when you're getting older. Oops. All right, let's get this all nice and outlined. Now you could do this part with a paintbrush as well, and you wouldn't have quite as much overhang, but again, this is all going to get covered, so I'm not too worried about it. That's how I'm going to do my outline, because I'm just covering those lines and then my outside edge and across my top. So that's all that part really needs. So I'm going to set that aside. And now I get to kind of decide how I want all my pieces to look. So let me lay these guys out. Set my paint aside for a minute. So I've got my the heart, and then Valentine down on the bottom. Pull my letters off of here. Alrighty, so I think I'm going to do similar to how I set up this one with my colors, but I think mostly I'm going to switch out where I have pink, I'm going to go red, white, I'm going to keep white, and then black where I have my gray. I think that's what we're going to do. So this is going to go red. I think that's what we're going to do. These guys are going to be red. Gray. This is going to be black. This will stay white. This is going to get striped. Okay, we got this. We got this. Alrighty, I'm going to go on, since I already have black on my brush, I'm going to go ahead and work on my black sections. If I can get this to open nicely. There you go. And I'm going to do pretty much the same thing as I did before. Now, one thing I will mention on this one that has this kind of, I don't know, it reminds me of like a sewn edge look design to it. If you're going to do a lighter color, something you can do is either take a baby wipe and kind of clean this off, or take your sanding sponge and you can do the same thing. It's going to clean off some of that edge from when it was engraved in there. Totally optional. Sometimes if I'm going for a rustic look, I'll leave that in there because then it just kind of makes it look nice and aged. So you guys get that option there. That kind of helps clean it up a little bit. But I'm going to end up painting it black, so I don't even need to sand it. But I want to show you guys what that looked like. So let's see. I'm going to get in here and I'm going to start dabbing the black on here. If you're painting over the edges where that has this kind of like stitching look to it, the sponge is great for that because you just kind of dab right over the top of it and then that look kind of stays out. So you don't want to put too much pressure down onto it. Kind of, I don't know, I'd say light to medium pressure at most, so you're not pushing paint down into those little crevices. It's just kind of sitting on that top part, and then you still have that really nice stitch look. Now, since I'm doing the black, you're just barely going to be able to see the stitch, but it'll be okay. It'll still be cute. Get all of this filled in. I figured if I painted these two different ways, you can kind of, before you dive into your paint, if you wanted to kind of get an idea of what they would look like, you can use mine as, I don't know, what's what I'm looking for, kind of like the guinea pig version, and decide which theme colors you like. Or if you want to use completely different colors, by all means, have at it, and I would love to see what that looks like. I've really been liking like a turquoisey blue with the red and white and pink for Valentine's Day. I haven't painted anything with it, but I've loved everything I keep seeing like on Pinterest and stuff like that that has that color combination. I just think it's really cute, but I haven't gotten to do anything with it yet. We have a little mini camper and truck Valentine's Day set that I've painted one, and I did the pink and red and white look to it, but I really think I might go back in and make a turquoise one now because I love it. So the cool thing with some of these letters, it's going to be your E, your hearts, and your M, is this part's going to go over it, so I don't have to take my paint all the way down to the bottom of there, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to leave that part just plain like that, but we're going to set that aside so it can dry. Let's see. And like I said, I'm going to cheat, and I'm using this one, and I'm just changing what color goes where. So I'm just flip-flopping what we've got going on here. So this heart's going to go black. That part's black. This heart is black. These small hearts are black. And then stripes. Okay, I think we got this. So I'm going to paint my small pieces. And then we're going to add some fun details to the end of this that'll kind of really make everything pop. And they're really easy. I promise we don't do anything that's super complicated. We try to make it simple so that it's fun for everyone to create these. Sharon says, I'm sorry, I'm just now seeing that comments are coming in again. Sharon says she likes the pink and grays. I do too. I started, I did just one piece around Christmas time in the pink and gray for Valentine's Day, and I loved the way it looked. And so I got sucked into that for most of our Valentine's Day stuff that's on in our retail section up front. But I just kind of wanted to show you guys both versions of it so you had a good idea. And we've been using kind of like a dusty pink with the gray, and I really like how that shows. I've been looking for pretty much any excuse to use that paint color. We just added it this last year, like at the end of the year, to our color lineup in the studio, and I'm, like I said, looking for any excuse I can to add it to anything. Get in there and get a little bit more black for my letter B. You guys will have to let me know, now that we've painted something where we used brushes and this time we're using sponges, I'll have to put a post up and ask you guys which one you kind of prefer painting with. I was team sponge for a really, really long time, and then I don't know, I just could never get a really good even coverage with a brush. And then I don't know if I just got better at it or I used different paints that I preferred or what exactly happened. But I kind of shifted gears, and then I started having a newfound love for brushes. But then this project just, I don't know, I felt like this one really lended itself to using the sponges. So I figured we'd try this one a little bit different, and then you guys will have to let me know which one you prefer. And we'll try to work more of that into our subscription boxes. Alrighty, we're gonna let those guys dry for a little bit, and then if I need to put another coat on them, I can. Black is fidgety. Sometimes it'll be really good on one coat coverage, and sometimes it needs that second coat to get a really good solid color. So we'll see how this goes. See, and Sharon says she likes to spray paint. letters when she can. And sometimes I do, but I don't know. It takes, oops, did I miss a heart? No, this is that one. Sometimes I feel like it takes some of the crafty, I did paint the wrong heart. That's okay. We're going to make this work anyway. It takes some of the kind of the crafty side of it out. That, and I know a lot of our members right now are in really cold weather. We had, I feel like it was almost half of our shipped boxes had weather delays for arrival. And so some of our members cannot get out to spray paint quite yet. It's a little too cold out there. And if you are stuck in that area, I feel for you, because it is not that cold here, and I don't know how to deal with that kind of cold. Alrighty, so this one and this one are going red. This one's going to get striped with red. This is going to be red. This is going to be red. See if we can get all of our red pieces together. This one, this little guy, and this one. All right, red we're going for a minute here. We've got some pieces. So this one right here, the Y shape, and you can see it on here. I'll put this up closer to the camera. On the Y, you can see there's those hearts in the background. They are scored into place, and so that means there's just kind of, they're lightly put on there. So again, this is where using that really nice little dab, dab, dab method to paint versus going really, you know, hard with a paintbrush and getting down into those cracks. You're wanting to go light on this. If you're going across and say it's not going, maybe the paint color is not as bold as you want it to be, this is one that I would recommend doing 2 coats to get it to a color you like, instead of trying to go like press harder just so that it stays on the surface of your project so you can still see those hearts. And I'll kind of dab this on here and show you what I mean. So you can see that this paint one is not super, super thick, and I'm probably going to go over that a second time, which is just fine. I've got plenty of paint. But I'm going to do that versus pushing a lot of paint on there so that I can still see that really cute heart background. I don't want to lose that. If you should lose some of it though, there are tricks to clean those out. You can use something like the end of a needle, or something like well, yeah, you could use a toothpick too. That sort of stuff to get down into those cracks and peel them back out. I don't get too crazy with it. If I do end up covering one a little bit, it's usually fine. But for the most part, I try to just paint lightly so that I'm not covering too many of those fun little details. Tap some of this red paint off. And what I do too is I make sure that I don't have too much paint on my sponge. That can really affect how much it goes down into the cracks too. If you've got a lot of paint on the end of your sponge, it's going to push down into those more because there's more free paint instead of it being sucked kind of into the sponge. So that's another thing to mention. This one all pressed in there. Jonathan used to always laugh at me when I was painting, because I did a lot of stencil painting before we had the laser cutters to cut shapes. And so when we would lay our stencils down, we'd start, you know, I would start painting, and all of it was kind of a dab, 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 and all you could hear from the craft room was just this constant tap, 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 tap. He's like, okay, I know you've gone on to painting now. Yes. And when we'd host workshops too, it sounded crazy because we've had, you know, 30 people in a small room, all making that, you know, tap, 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 tap sound. But it's fun. Oh, yeah. Sharon saying that they still had snow and ice in their yard on Monday, and then she's in southeast Tennessee area. It's, I don't know, sometimes we get rain this time of year, but it's not super, super common. But we actually had some flooding here in Yuma because of the rain. And it's not, we did get record rain, I will say that. And by record rain, I mean like we got an inch, a little over an inch, I believe, of rain, which is not normal for us. But our ground and our water, I don't even know what you call those things, where the water goes and the grates under the concrete. Wow, I know those have a word, but I can't think of what they are just not equipped for a lot of water because it's not something we deal with very often. So it caused flooding all over the place. We had, unfortunately, water come into the shop where our doors are because we're not designed for a lot of water very often. And we deal with that during monsoon season too, where we have water coming up under the doors, and we usually sandbag it. But I don't know, I didn't anticipate that much rain the other day. It just was very unseasonably wet. 84 degrees in Myrtle Beach. That sounds kind of amazing. We're supposed to get into the 70s, so you guys are actually warmer than we are, which I know is usually our claim to fame here in Arizona, is it's, you know, oh, well, if it's that hot there, it's this hot here. And it's been unseasonably not too bad, but we're definitely seeing that warm up coming up. It's coming. It's one of those hit or miss. February, we can either have really, really cold Februaries where we are just not, we're not about it and we want to be in the house and warm. Or we can have the warmer Februaries where you're asking why you're wearing a tank top when the rest of the country is still seeing snow. So it's always hit or miss. Get this part filled in. And like I said, we're going to come back and add some little details to these that I think will make all these letters pop. But if you do not want to do those, you don't have to. Get a little bit more paint in there. All right, here's my little M. Ta-da! I was telling you guys that I had originally, I'm laughing because the trust the process sign is right behind me. I was telling you guys that I had intended originally for this to be a reversible sign, and I think maybe I trusted the process a little too much because I had totally thought it was going to work, and I actually had started, I did the, I'll show you my oops. I had done, where did I put it? Oh yeah, I had done the St. Patrick's Day one, and I decided I was going to do my background black. I had gotten this far with it and started lining pieces up, and I went, wait a minute. None of this is lining up the way it's supposed to. What did I do? And then I looked, and it was completely not sorted and prepared to do what I had originally envisioned. So maybe I trust the process a little too much. But that's okay. Now we have two completely separate projects that you can paint at your convenience and not have to worry about finishing the back side of it. And you can put them up separately. That's where I get my love-hate with reversible decor, is if you are someone who is very organized. I am not. If you are someone who is very organized and you put all of your Valentine's Day decor in one bin, all of your, St. Patrick's Day decor in one bin, then if it's reversible, I don't know. Do you put it, I guess that would be the right thing to do then, huh? You would put it in the first holidays bin so that when that holiday comes around, you can pull it out and then you just already have it out for the next holiday. But then where do you put it back? If you are someone who is actually organized and gets all of your holiday decor taken down in a timely manner, where do you put it back to? That's where I struggle. But these are the things I overthink about. Get all of my red filled in here. There we go. Oh, some of you guys have seen that we have added a new family member to our family that was not entirely planned. I did scare somebody because we were talking and they were like, how's the baby and how's, mom of two life? And I was like, well, funny story, we added another, what did I say? We're adding another to our family, something to that effect. And somebody was like, wait, what, already? Because my daughter is only, well, she'll be 5 months on Tuesday. They're like, already another one? I was like, hang on a second. And then I showed them we got a puppy. So Jonathan has, and I think it's appropriate to talk about this because we're painting Valentine's Day stuff. Jonathan has always wanted like a bloodhound. I do not want a bloodhound. I know how loud they can be and they can be kind of obnoxious. And to be honest here, we just don't really have use for one in terms of, their abilities. And they have special capabilities and we just don't have a whole lot of use for them here. But then, he kind of is in the, I just want a hound, some sort of a hound dog. And so a friend of ours that I've known since I was quite literally a little kid, like we're talking first grade, I went to kindergarten with one of her sons. And then in first grade is when I really got to know them because they moved in across the street from us, had 3, and this is my thing too, I'm over boy dogs. We had 3 boy dogs and I'm ready just to have girl dogs. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I don't know. I just feel like they love more. But she had 3 female basset hounds. And so I just kept looking and I kept looking and I jokingly told Jonathan, hey, I'm going to get you a puppy, okay, for Valentine's Day. Sound good? And he yelled from the other room because I sent him a text message with a picture of it while I was helping Levi get ready for school. And I sent him a picture and he said, no. I was like, yeah, I figured so. That was going to be a no. We have a 5-month-old baby. We do not need, we had 4 dogs for a really long time. Last summer, I lost the dog that I've had since I was a first time living on my owner type situation. And so that was hard. my son still talks about him a lot too, and he'll tell me, I miss Tucker. And I said, I know, me too, bud. But we were a 4-dog household, and I was like, I will never have 4 dogs again. That is a lot, especially with, you know, us having the shop and being busy and all the things and kids. I said I'd never be a 4-dog household again. Well, I lied. But I figured Jonathan would never go for it. But then he came back. We got Levi ready for school. He went to school. And Jonathan came back, and I was kind of fiddling around, picking stuff up, folding laundry. And he's like, why are you not dressed? Why are we not going to get this puppy? I want the puppy. I was like, wait, you said no. He's like, yeah, but I didn't think you were going to actually let me say no. I was like, well, I didn't think you were going to let me say yes. So we went back and forth for a little while. And it wasn't really like, I don't know, I would say our conversation was probably not the most, you know, make sensible. He asked me about, I used to be a dog groomer for a long time. And he asked me about, you know, what kind of health issues are Basset Hounds known to have? Are there any like particular, I don't know what's what I'm looking for, like personality traits to be concerned with? And I said, yes, they're stubborn, which is nothing new. Our dogs are all stubborn, and none of them are Basset Hounds. But I had said, yeah, they can be known to be stubborn. You know, they can have, you know, certain health issues and stuff like that. And he kind of looked at some videos and factoids about them, and I went back to folding laundry and gathering up, you know, just little chores and stuff. And he comes back, he's like, you're still not getting dressed to go get me a puppy. I was like, oh, okay, we're being real about this. Oh, okay then. And all of a sudden, we had a puppy. Oh, but she's crazy. Her name is Delilah, and Jonathan is determined to make her a go dog that, you know, rides in the car everywhere. Our other dogs are all seniors, and they're to the point where they have a hard time jumping into the car. So it's kind of a full mission to get them into a vehicle to go, you know, to the vet, to the groomer, and all that sort of stuff. So he's determined that this is going to be his truck go dog, you know, the one that runs with him to Home Depot to get wood and come to the shop. And so she has been up at the shop with us. She's greeted many a customer already because she does not like to stay in the back of the studio area. She's got a bed here and everything. And so if you come to the shop, odds are you're going to see Miss Delilah, because she comes running to the front anytime she sees one of us walk up there or hears the bell. At this point, I'm sure she's put 2 and 2 together. The bell means there are people coming, and odds are they're going to rub her belly. So there's that. If you know, should want nothing to do with a cute little puppy, give me a heads up, and I will make sure that she is not coming up to the front. Alrighty, so this part. This is going to be that striped piece. Now, you don't have to do it striped. If you want to make it look like shiplap lines, you could paint right over this. I really like the way that I did the stripes on this one. It kind of broke up the different shapes. So I am going to paint stripes onto this. So I'm going to do my red stripes first. One thing I always kind of recommend is do the color that's going to be easier to cover first, so that if you go over the lines, it's not as big a deal, and then take your darker color over the top of that. So for like the gray and pink, but occasionally I still get a little bloop here and there. And I'm realizing now that I forgot to grab water to rinse this brush out, but it's okay. We're going to work with it. Get this all filled in. I feel like this is when I start to get really concentraty if I'm using a brush instead of a sponge. So if I get quiet, it's because I'm concentrating on my little stripes to make sure they come out the way I want them to. I applaud people who, because I know we've got a couple ladies who said that they paint right along while we do these videos. I cannot do that. I have to watch it and then come back in and paint it afterwards, because I will completely zone out on something and not get it done. Usually when I paint, I am a big fan of like true crime. There's kind of 2 ways I can go. I can either go true crime podcast or true crime like series or something like that on you know, Netflix or something like that. Or I go the polar opposite and I watch cheesy movies that I've seen 100 times, so I don't really have to pay attention to them. I know what's going on, or Gilmore Girls or something like that. Something that I've seen a million times, so I don't actually have to pay attention to what's happening to know what's happening. Those are pretty much my 2 options. But I am not good at like paint while you're showing me how to paint something. At least not in videos. I think I can do it in person, but in videos not so much. Because if I am going to watch a video, I'm going to stop it and pause it 100 times. But if you are not that kind of person, I applaud you. Alrighty, and then again with this bottom stripe, I don't have to take this all the way down to the bottom, so I'm going to go about halfway down with my red stripe, and then I'll come back in with my black afterwards. Well, do I want to do black or do I want to do white? We'll see. Now I'm almost thinking that a white and red stripe would be really cute, but I don't know if that would look too much. There we go. I think I'll leave it with the black, because then I'll have the white hearts on it and everything else. Alright, so that's how I'm going to do my red. If you'll notice this middle stripe, I kind of skipped some spots. There's going to be a big heart that's going to glue right on top of it, so I'm not worried about getting it perfectly into all those little nooks and crannies. So since I was a goof and did not grab water, I'm just going to kind of wipe the excess paint off of my brush so that I can use that with black in a few minutes, but I am going to let that dry. And then I'm going to start in on my white, because odds are I will have to do 2 coats of white. It just happens that way. White opened up, and I mentioned it before, if you are wanting to use colors from your more St. Patrick's Day strip and mix it with your Valentine's Day, by all means switch them up, put them together. They're all the paints are meant to be used together, so you don't got to worry about using too much of one color on the wrong piece. So again, with this XOXO background piece, I'm going to dab really lightly so that I'm not squishing too far down into those letters. And then I can focus more so on getting it just on the face of my project. And like I had mentioned, white is notorious for needing a second coat. So if you end up needing a second one, don't stress. That's totally normal. Dab, 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 dab. We used to, when we would do our toddler time classes, we did a lot of stencil based projects with them too, just because, I don't know, it was amazing to watch, you know, a toddler just go completely crazy on a project, put paint everywhere, you know, just go for it. And then we peel that stencil back and here's this perfect design underneath. And you know, it's just fun to do that. But we would always, you know, kind of start the class off and tell them, okay, this is how we're going to paint. We're going to take our sponge and we're going to dab, dab, dab. And we had the cutest little girl who would come to our classes. I will say she did eat paint the first time she came to one, but we got past that. We moved right on past that. We started providing regular snacks during toddler time. And so I think we curbed that need. But I had this little video of her when she was, you know, she'd been to a couple classes, so she'd heard, you know, the dab, dab, dab rule. Well, she's standing up on one of the chairs and she's doing this cute little dance like this with her sponge going dab, 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 dab. And she's just the cutest little thing. I'm super bummed though. Her family just recently moved to Colorado or Utah, one or the other. I know north of us, but her mom, like right before they came in, had come, or right before they left, had come in and said, yeah, we're getting ready to move. And I was like, no, I love their little girl. She's so cute. And she's already ordered some kits to paint up there, which we're getting ready to ship out. So maybe there will still be hope to see the adorable little dabber. But she's the cutest little thing. This part all filled in. Some of my white coated nicely and won't need a full second coat, but I'm going to go over it anyway. Now again, like I mentioned, if you are more into like the rustic decor, you might actually like leaving just a single coat on there, because then it's going to bring more of that wood grain through and you'll be able to see it. And that's something else you can do too. If you like more of a white wash look, grab a baby wipe or even a paper towel mixed, like dipped in water, and kind of wring it out really well, and then use that and wipe. It's going to, what's what I'm looking for? Kind of dull out your black lines a little bit, your score bits that are in the background. But for the bits, I don't have a roll sitting right here, or I probably do somewhere. But something else, if you like painting kits like this often and have little pieces, that we always do the tape trick during workshops with small pieces. But if you take a piece of like painter's tape and put it down on your table face up, and then take like 2 pieces on the outside and tape it down, it'll look kind of like a big eye but sideways. Make the long strip be sticky side up. You can tape your little pieces down onto that, and it helps keep them in place when you're painting, so you're not having to chase 50 billion tiny pieces. So that's kind of wonderful. If you're looking for some extra tips or some extra things you can add to kind of your craft tool, I don't know what I'm looking for here, your craft tool stuff. Get this one all filled in. I'll say, if you want to see that tip in action, we do have, if you're local to us, we have a workshop coming up February 8th. It is a pick your project. You can grab any project from the website that you would like to do as far as our paint projects go. Of course, we're running a little spotlight on anything Valentine's Day themed. Now, you won't be able to grab this kit because this one is exclusive to our subscription box people. But we've got lots of other cute kits on there that you can pick from, or you don't have to do Valentine's Day at all. But I will show you the tape trick in person and show you how incredible it is. I do. So we also just opened registration for our DIY date night, which is going to be the Saturday after Valentine's Day. I feel like Valentine's Day itself is such a hectic day if you're trying to do things, especially if you're trying to do something sweet for your kids and your spouse. And so the day of just felt like there's a lot. So if you wanted to, be able to give your spouse something on Valentine's Day, tell them that you got them tickets to DIY date night and that you're going to go out on Saturday and not have to fight all of the crowds who are out on Valentine's Day itself. That's what we do. We cheat and go that route with it. But on Valentine's Day, I'm almost tempted to have a workshop, but not focus it on Valentine's Day because by that point you're kind of done with your Valentine's Day stuff for the month. But February 14th is also Arizona's birthday, and so I think we might come up with some more Arizona themed projects. We do have one at the end of the month. We're going to be doing our patina class, which is really fun. It's a specialty paint we use. It's from Dixie Belle. We don't carry it in the store, but if you're interested in ever buying some, I do know a lady, a really good friend of mine who lives in Kansas, that's who I buy mine from for the shop for us to use in workshops, and she can hook you right up with it. But it is a specialty paint from Dixie Belle that has metal like flakes in the paint itself. There's a bronze, a copper, and an iron, and it's got metal flakes in it. And then we use a spray that creates basically like a chemical reaction in the paint, and it ages the metal really fast. Like we're talking when we apply heat within a matter of minutes. And it ages the metal really fast so that you go from having, this pretty, kind of shimmery looking design to having something that looks like old worn metal. And I've had so many people completely not believe me when I tell them that our patina painted pieces are just pieces of wood that we've painted to look that way. And they're like, no way, there's no way. And then they pick it up and look at it and they're like, wow, that really is wood. So we do have that class coming up, which has been requested several times over. We hosted one last year, and then I just didn't get one on the calendar before we got into the thick of Christmas festivities. And so I did. I got it back on there though for February, since it's Arizona's birthday month. And so the design we're doing is it's in Arizona that we're going to put a patina design or a patina finish on, and it has a really cool succulent cactus overlay piece that goes on it. That of course you can paint it anyway. If you really are dead set that you don't want to do the patina, you don't have to. We've got all the paints here all the time. But that's kind of I don't know, something fun to pull out. Alrighty, most of my white covered a lot better than it usually does. Must be lucky. But I think my letters could use a second coat. And I just realized I forgot a Y over there. This one dabbed in. I'll let those ones sit, so I'm going to put a first coat on this one since I skipped it all together. Now this one I'm not super concerned with covering the heart shape that's at the bottom of it, only because I've got a heart that's going to sit right on top of it. And I kind of look at our first instruction on almost all of our DIY kits is to lay out the pieces of your project so you can kind of see how pieces go together. We try to shrink wrap them in a way that it's how they're gonna finish up, but occasionally things shift in transport. It just happens. So we always say lay out your pieces, take a peek at them, see what you think. Oh, Carol says she might come to the Arizona one. It's really fun. I do, and I'll put mention in there too to anybody who does register for it. I'll send out an email ahead of time, and then we'll probably have a stash of them here because now we can actually purchase them. It does have the patina paint when you're using the spray to kind of make the stuff age quickly. It does have a smell to it, and I guess I'll just tattle on myself. The very first time I ever used the paint, I was super excited. I thought it was so cool. I used to have a little teeny tiny craft room, and I had gone into there. I used to close the door behind me because Levi was in toddler stage, and he would just go in there and completely tear it apart. I mean, craft rooms are never tidy, but man, put a toddler running around in one of those things and it's a mess. But he would come in and just, tear the space apart. So I had closed the door behind me, and I don't even remember if he was home right then or if he was at daycare at that point. But I think it may have just been habit to close the door when I went in there. Well, Jonathan had come in to check on me to see how things were going. He was like, "Can you smell that?" I was like, "Smell what?" And he's like, "That paint you're using, what is that? Because it smells really strong." And I couldn't smell anything. And then about then is when I realized my nose was burning. Yeah, it definitely has a smell to it. So I will recommend either if you are sensitive to smells to wear a mask or bring a mask with you and kind of, try it out. But we will have all the fans going. We're in a much bigger room than my tiny craft room. And then I usually will only do the patina classes when we can open the back door too. So we've got that extra kind of airflow going on. But if you're sensitive to smells, I do recommend grabbing a mask just to be on the safe side. Alright, I think I've got all my pieces painted. I haven't decided if I'm going to go back over the black or not. I think I'm okay with it. But now what I'm going to do is kind of play around with my pieces. So I'm going to lay them back out real quick so I can see what they all look like. But something I like to do, and you can see it, I feel like it's easier to see on these ones just because the colors are bolder. But you see how like the outside of the C has sort of this white glow to it? I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Let me lay my pieces out so I get an idea of what colors are on what section. Oh, I still got to paint these guys black. Please hold. But what we're going to do is we're going to kind of add a glow to some of our letters. It's very simple and there's different ways to do it, but I'm going to show you what I think is kind of the easiest way. Get some of my black paint here and paint my stripes in that I momentarily forgot about. And again, now that I'm using a brush, I'm going to get real quiet because I'm concentrating. I think if this is if the hot Barbie pinks were more of your color jam, this would look really cute too with the black, pink, and white. If that was more your style. But I figured if we covered the red, the gray, the pink, and the black, we'd probably have most people covered. Alright, so we've got that stripe. We're gonna grab this one. I can't wait. My request for Valentine's Day, and we'll see if it happens. And husband, if you're watching, you hear this. You do hear this. I really want to get my office finished at the shop because once that's done, I will go back to having a 2-camera setup. So I will have one that looks over the table so you guys can really see what I'm looking at, and then one that I can talk to like this. But all that's going to go in the office because right now I'm just in our studio area. And so that's my special request for Valentine's Day is I really want at least that part of it done. At this point, honestly, it's mostly just a matter of finishing the wall that's behind that area and cleaning that room out. The wall, so it used to be, our shop used to be a vintage clothing exchange. And they had a very, their style was very grunge and skulls and that sort of thing because they also had a skate shop in this back part. And so there was a big mural on the wall in there that had graffiti style lettering. And I felt bad doing it, I will be honest. But we tried to cover over with paint and it wouldn't cover over very well. So it's kind of this weird blobby gray situation that eventually we will clean up and make cute. But I want to fix that before you guys see the crazy in the background. But after that wall's done, I'm pretty much good. We've got a desk in there. I've got a super comfy chair. I also have a nursery chair in there because that was Rainy's domain, but now she is on the move as much as she can be. So we don't use it a whole lot anymore, unfortunately. But instead it'll end up being a nap chair someday. So we've got our stripes. And like I said, that middle part right there is going to get covered by a heart. So I'm not too worried about it. But let's talk about adding kind of a shadow or a glow, depending upon what color we're doing. So let me lay this all back out real quick. This will kind of give me an idea of what it all looks like so that I can figure out which colors to put where. This, like, I feel like it adds a lot to the piece without adding a whole lot of steps. That one on there. My Y is right here. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this one is gonna go here. This one goes not right there. Got these backwards. That one goes there. This one goes here. Right? No, this one goes inside the heart. I'm getting it together, guys, I promise. This one goes here. And then these guys go on here. All right, so there is our layout. Now what I'm gonna do is I can kind of look, let me push this where you guys can actually see it. Can you pull it closer to me? Yes. So what I'm gonna look at is see what other color is next to something. So like with this one, I've got the red background and then the black lettering. So I'm gonna take white on my sponge, and if your sponge has dried out at this point, this is how I like to reuse these, is I take a pair of scissors and I just trim it down and I take off that dried out part, and now I've got like a fresh sponge. But I'm going to take a little bit of my white paint on the very end of this sponge, just a little bit, and sometimes I'll even dab some of the excess off because this one is a lot easier to add more on than it is to take it off. And I'm going to take my shape and just right along the edge, I'm going to tap real lightly and just kind of go around it. It doesn't have to be perfect all the way around. You can have little spots where there's really not a whole lot of anything going on and you're still going to get the same effect. But if you look, it's kind of, what if I put it in front of the red? You can kind of see now that I've got that little glow going on with it, and it just gives it a little bit more than a flat paint color. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add this little glow all the way around. And some of the parts that are hard to get into, like inside this little loop right here, I just fudge it as best I can, kind of stick the end of my sponge in there. If you feel more comfortable and you want to use this other end of your sponge, you could do that too. I just kind of real lightly go in there. Just enough to put some of that paint on. And sometimes it comes out a little thicker than I originally planned. You can totally go back in if it does bother you, go back in with your whatever your original color was and cover back over it. But I don't get too particular about that. I try to remind myself all the time that I am creating a craft project. It does not have to be perfect. It's meant to be fun. And I don't want it to look like a machine made it. I want it to look like I made it. I just kind of start following all the curves, tapping it all in there. Cover on this side. And I do the insides of kind of like the inside of the bee too, because I feel like if I just do the outside, I feel like I missed something. So come into here, add more detail in there. Now you could, if you wanted to, you could do this with a brush and you'll get a much like finer line, but I like the way this looks kind of, I don't know, for some reason, and this is probably just me, it reminds me of frosting. I don't know why. That's always my go-to explanation, is it's like frosting the edges for a different look. There we go. So this whole piece has color to the edge. Now I can do the same thing with my square pieces too. I like to add kind of, essentially it's the exact same technique as just along the edge. You're gonna add some color in there just to give it a little something. This one of course goes a lot faster and easier because you just got 4 edges to kind of follow along. Bring this down. And on my original, this part, you've got to kind of, this is definitely a trust the process part. On my original one, I'll show you in the picture, or not in the picture, but on it, you can see that for it to focus, on my bee, there's kind of some other background pieces that have that white in there. All I did was kind of took my sponge, and like I said, this is you got to trust yourself and either go for it or decide not to. And I just kind of pick random spots and apply pressure so it picks some of that up. And this one's going a little heavier than I wanted, but again, I'm at a trust it or don't sort of point. So I've got these funky little white marks on there, but once I put my letter in place and my little white hearts that go along with it, that's going to make that one, hopefully you can kind of see that. You'll see it when I pick it up, a lot cuter. So now I'm just going to kind of work through and add colors where I need to. Now, obviously, if I have a white background, adding the white edge to it is not going to do a whole lot. So I can mix it up and take a different color. Like this one, for instance, since I have the red letter, I'll probably take some of the black and do the edging in the black instead of using the red. So I can mix some of the other color into that piece. I am going to use the white on the edge of this red to kind of give it a little bit of a glow. Around on the edges. Something else that I'm going to add some to, and this is another reason I love the little paint brushes that we include in most of our kits, the little blue, we always refer to them just as our blue brushes, is we're going to use the back end of it to make some little perfect polka dots to add on to it. That's anytime you see dots of any sort on one of my projects, 9 times out of 10 I did not paint a perfect little circle. I use the back end of a paintbrush and it just makes the nicest little dots. Let's get this all filled in. But we'll come to that part in a second. So that little guy, my black is right here. Do I still have enough black on here to do it? I don't. Open up my black one again. I'm going to trim the end of my sponge. Dab some of that excess paint off because we don't want a whole lot, especially when you're using your darker colors on something light. It is a pain in the butt to go back in and cover back over. So we're going to tap along our edge. There we go. We'll put our red right on top of that. So now that's got some color to it. Now this one, because my edges or my stripes are the colors that they are, I'm definitely going to do a white edge on it. And then I'm going to use some of my hearts to play around with. Oops. It's thicker than what I was going for because I forgot to offload, but that's okay. Go around this edge and down this side. Now on my hearts, I'm going to play a little bit. So this kind of double layered heart here, I'm going to take this red one out, and this one I'm going to distress a bit more with some more paint across it, kind of like we did with the background of the bee. I'm going to hit the edges to start. Then I'm going to dab right across, and I'm just going really, really light, so it's only picking up a little bit of paint, just enough to kind of cause some funky discoloration in there so that it has kind of a different look to it. For my white heart, I'm going to use some of the red on the outside to give it a little bit of a halo. Around the outside of it. And this is, like I said, why I really like being able to cut the sponges down. I feel like when I have a smaller sponge when I'm doing this part, it doesn't get quite as out of hand as easily. And I can go back and forth. And if I get to a point to where I have to stop for a little bit, I always know I can use that sponge again to give it some more color. So got those two together. I'm gonna give this little red one a little halo. Actually, I might go a little heavier on this one. And we're gonna do the same with the black one that's on there. Especially since I have the black and red background, I'm wanting to give these sort of a little bit of detail around them so they really pop against the stripes. There we go. So put that guy up there, this one right there, this one right there, my M and my kind of stitch looking background. Like I said, for this one, since we've got darker colors, most of my I don't know, I don't want to call it distressing, I don't know what else to call it, but like I said, it reminds me of frosting is going to be in the white color. I think this would be super cute with glitter too, but I don't play with glitter. That is some of you guys who have done workshops with me have heard us have this conversation. That is Jonathan's one rule, request, whatever, is no glitter. And I convinced him to work here and work with me all the time and do all the things. So that being his one and only request, I usually try to play nice. The only time that gets out of hand to where I just can't is with Christmas ribbon. Christmas ribbon is notorious for having glitter on it, and I do not limit myself to ribbon that doesn't have glitter on it. He just has to deal with that part. It does, and that's part of what reminded me is I just found red glitter on that letter. And I guarantee it's stuck around from Christmas time from when I had the Christmas glittery ribbon out. So that's definitely where it came from. Alrighty. I'm going to stamp a little bit more of this around this edge to kind of highlight, since I did the black background, to kind of highlight those stitching marks. But I am still going to keep most of my color on this one around the edge. Here we go. And then we've just got two more little sections to go. This part on there. I really like the heart background on this with just the little score lines in the back. I think it looks so cute. It's probably, of the pieces, I know it sounds silly, but of the pieces, it's probably my favorite. So got that one highlighted. We're going to highlight this heart. I wish I should have grabbed it too, because I have my phone right here. I should have taken a picture of it before we did the highlighting so we can kind of see what it looks like and see what a difference it makes, but next time. All right, for my Y, since it is white, I'm going to take my red around the edge. And I'm going to super concentrate. This is why I feel like I need music on in the background, but then Facebook will mute the whole thing because I don't have, you know, the trademark rights to songs, so that wouldn't be good either. Alrighty, so there's our Y. And we just have our bottom Valentine piece, and then we get to do assembly. So this one, I think I'm gonna do white around this part, but otherwise I'm gonna leave, yeah, let me see, what does this look like? The red doesn't highlight a whole lot on the black, but we're going to do it anyway because I've already started. But otherwise, I'm going to leave my Valentine down there just plain white. I'm not going to highlight that one so that it's really bold against the background. But we are going to do, oops, some highlighting on the actual rectangle, and then we start to do glue up. Which, speak of the devil, I was just going to say, Jonathan is my go-to gluer because I actually, of all the steps dealing with painting, glue is my least favorite, but he's calling me right now. But I texted him and told him I was going to be live with you guys, so he's going to have to wait. This edge done. All right, we're gonna end up adding more to the red, more to the top of our heart because I got a little heavy-handed on what was supposed to be a little highlight, but that's okay. That's right. Those look fun. All right, so we're gonna pop these guys off. We're gonna do a white edge on this, and then we'll start gluing. I don't know why I got real quiet right now. There we go. All right, so that's all of our pieces. Now we're going to glue. Now you kind of get your option on this point. If you prefer to use the small blue brush to glue, you definitely can. If you like using the sponges, if using that kind of dab method with the sponge feels more comfortable, you can use a sponge and glue as well. Either one works. But I think I'm gonna brush for the most part. I'm gonna do my letters first, and then we'll put them all on the base. So open up one of my glues, and I do have we've had a lot of question on what glue we use, in case you wanted to add some more to your craft room or anything like that. We like to use, do I have a bottle of it right here? I don't. Titebond wood glue is my favorite. We used to use the Gorilla wood glue for a long time, but I feel like it didn't dry as clear as the Titebond does. This one definitely, like if I have glue that kind of squeezes out to the side, this one dries super, super, super clear, and it's my favorite. So what I did was I just got some of the glue on my blue brush and painted it kind of like I was painting paint on the back side of my letter. I'm gonna do the same with my heart. And it really doesn't take a whole lot, especially since these are intended to be indoor pieces. They're not in the elements quite so much, so you're not having to worry a whole lot about a lot of glue. So press that on there. It's gonna be our little Y. I like this usually even more than, for smaller stuff like this at least, I prefer doing this over using a squeeze bottle of glue, only because these little pieces right here are definitely, and like I said, I know it dries clear, but these little skinny parts are definitely a lot harder to get the glue on and keep it just in place when you have a big stream of glue versus just a little bit on the end of a brush. Get our hearts in place. Now this one, I'm going to place my big heart first so that I can get it in its spot, and then I can put my little one in the middle. A little bit in this middle part. Yeah, brushing the glue helps a lot. I haven't tried it, but I've had other people who've gotten kits say they've tried it with the more spongy cotton swabs, not the ones that you necessarily use for your ears. Usually the ones you would use for like cleaning electronics or something like that. They've used those in place of a bristly brush. And they said they've really liked gluing with those. I have not tried it yet, but it is on my to-do list to try to see if I like it any better. My thing is for the most part, these are throwaway brushes. Like I was talking to somebody, we buy them in packs of like 800 at a time. So we use them pretty regularly. I do rinse them out, but if these get too gunked up with glue and paint, I don't worry so much about it. So I was going somewhere with that and I lost my train of thought. So yeah, if I get glue onto these, I'm not worried about it. They can be tossed out and I won't cry. They get their use. We do, like I said, we use them quite a few times I'll rinse them out even with glue, especially using like a wood glue. They rinse out really well for the most part. But once they get gunked up, they can go in the, they can get tossed out. So they're dual purpose. And I don't feel as bad tossing them out when I've, you know, gotten their true use out of them. Press that one down. Brush, brush, brush. It does feel funny though, especially since this one I didn't rinse it a whole lot. You can see some of the black paint come through with the glue. Again, it's gonna dry, like the glue part, if any of that comes out, it's gonna dry clear, so I'm not worried about it, but it does look funny. We had Levi, I don't know if anybody saw that video, but Levi got to help. If you have any, I'll say that, if you got your kit and your glue stickers are kind of sideways or upside down or on, you know, not quite centered on there, that is because that is Levi's job to put the glue dot stickers on your pod strips. So forgive him, he's 5, he'll be 6 on Tuesday, but he's a little guy, and so getting him centered and perfect was not high on his list that day, but he did help. He was, I did a little video, and because he was like, I want to tell everybody what I'm doing, and I was like, okay, cool. So I recorded a video of him saying, this is my job, this is what I'm working on, and he said, you know, that's so that people know that it's glue, because it'd be so funny if they painted with the glue ones, if they thought it was like a yellow paint or something. It'd be so funny if they painted with that. And I said, yeah, that would not be fun, because it's, one, it's glue and it's not going to look real nice when it's done, and 2, you're not going to have a whole lot of color left. So you're right, that would be really funny. And he just was having a whole crack up. So glue usually is better than stick fast. I will be honest, I've never used stick fast, partially because it's really expensive in my opinion. Stick fast is a glue that a lot of people use off of Amazon, that you can order on Amazon. I don't know if you can get it in stores, Sharon. I've never looked for it. I have never used it personally, but just having like heard like how fast, like the whole point is that it sticks really quickly. I've used super glue and I don't even like how quickly that glues down. I prefer the wood glue because I get a little bit of kind of wiggle room if I don't get it perfect, especially with DIY kits. Because I know if I can put something in the wrong spot, you know, people who are not used to gluing lots of little pieces to other little pieces of wood often can definitely stick them down in the wrong spot. So I've never used stick fast. I'm not a fan of super glue, but I've ripped layers of wood off before I've gotten like an entire, like the layers of the in-between pieces off of something before I've gotten the actual bond of the glue to let go on these. So there's that. And I know it's definitely a lot easier for us to put these into kits for our makers to have glue in their kits. I don't know if we could repackage stick fast. I'm not sure how that would work. And Titebond we get, especially if you come into the studio, we've got bottles upon bottles upon bottles all over the table so that there's plenty of it to go around. We've started, Jonathan's favorite tip is to tell people, rather than trying to squeeze it out of the bottle, like use your paint plate, squeeze some of the glue onto that and then either brush or dab it onto the back of your pieces, just because it's less messy and it's like easier to spread, in my opinion, than it is trying to squeeze it out of the bottle. Because one minute you go from one little tiny dab out of the bottle to this huge, I don't know, pile of it. And then it squishes out, and that's no fun. I mean, it dries clear, but it's still not fun. This piece in place, and then we've got one more, and then we stick it all to the background. We'll add some fun little polka dots on the back end of our brush, and this one will be all ready. Get our V down there. Alrighty, so let's get our base. Now this part is kind of important. For each of your base pieces, because we're working on how thick it is to keep it standing up straight, you want to make sure that when you're adding your pieces that they are flush to the bottom. So I'll kind of show you what I mean. So I'm going to start with my B. I'm going to get kind of a decent amount of glue on my piece here and spread it out. And this is where this brush will probably meet the end of its life cycle after this, but that is okay. It got to paint the pieces, it applied glue for me, it's had a good life. So I've got my glue on there, and I'm going to stick it on here. But I'm going to kind of use those score lines to help make sure I've got it straight, but I want to make sure I push it down flush to the bottom. If you need to, grab another piece of one of your project pieces and kind of put it at the edge and push to make sure you get it nice and flat to the bottom, because that's how this is all going to sort of work out, is because of the thickness of the layers. That's how it's going to sit by itself when it's completed. So that's one important part that I want to mention, is you definitely want to make sure you get it all flush to the bottom. We're going to put our first set of letters, and then we'll add our rectangle on top, and that's going to create that extra layer that's really going to help make it be easy to stand. Now I'll kind of show you, especially you can see it because we've got the black paint in there that's mixing in with some of my glue. I don't cover the entire back of this. It doesn't need it. You can kind of see where the shiny parts are. It's not completely coated. It is enough on there that it's going to stick in all the right spaces. I try to make sure I get some towards the top, towards the bottom, and everywhere in between. But it does not have to be 100% coated on there. Wood glue is intended to hold things together much larger than our craft projects, so a little bit of glue on here is going to help. It's going to be just fine. Yes, Type Bond wood glue is my favorite. And there are different ones. There are some that are intended for indoor. There's some that are intended for outdoor. And I want to say, I think it's the blue cap is intended for outdoor. Maybe it's the red cap. I know it says on the bottle. Did you remember that much? And you can get them in, I know for sure they have 4 ounce, 16 ounce. There's an 8 ounce bottle. I will say I'm not a fan of the 16 ounce bottle. They're like a long tube, and I feel like it's really hard to squeeze the bottom part of it, whereas the 8 ounce one reminds me kind of like a jumbo Elmer's school glue bottle, and that one's pretty easy to get glue out of. So just a little something there. And the price makeup for buying a bigger bottle really does not equate to a whole lot. Like if I can pick frustration over paying a couple extra pennies for the ounces, I'm here for it. I will choose to not be frustrated. Now we have cheated and used the bigger bottles to refill the smaller bottles sometimes, but I still, if I had my choice, I would rather just get the 8 ounce bottles. That, and I like that I can get it when I need more glue on the fly, because I didn't realize how much I'd gone through. I can run to Home Depot, which if you've been to the shop, it's just around the corner from us, which is really, really convenient because we make a lot of trips to be able to do that. So I like that better than having to order something from Amazon too. Get that one on there. And our last letter. Brush this in place. You're welcome. I will say that is the one thing that I always get nervous about, is that we don't have enough glue in the kits. But as I'm finishing this up, I literally have one more piece to glue on after this, and I didn't even use half of one of the vials of glue, and there are 2 there. So you will have plenty of glue. I just always get nervous. I'm always afraid that, you know, there's going to be not enough of a material, so I usually overpack the paint, overpack the glue. I just want to make sure that you've got everything you need. Alrighty, so now we're going to get ready to put on our last layer, which is going to be the Valentine part across the bottom. Now this part's up to you. You can brush it on the back, but I'm actually just going to brush the bottom parts of my, the spots where it's going to go, because there are little cracks here. Now the odds of having any issues with glue falling down in there is very slim. Even if you have glue on the back of your project and some squeezes down into that crack, nothing's going to happen, but I'm a weirdo and this is how I'm going to do it. So brush that across there. And our last one. And while I will say that compared to something like super glue, the wood glue is a lot more forgiving timeline-wise, I do try to work quickly when I'm brushing glue on, especially if you're working in a room that has a fan, because it will dry your glue on you a lot faster. So this bottom piece is actually going to line up right to the edge of your E background and your M background, to where it's going to just sit right centered in there. But again, we're wanting that piece to be flush to the bottom so that it creates that third layer of thickness. to help sit on the bottom of it. And before we add polka dots, that is your nice little sign piece. Now I'm going to show you how we add the dots. Dots are super simple. You can get as crazy with them as you want to. Like I said, I like to use the back end of my brush. And something I will mention is, and I learned this actually from my friend Melody that I was mentioning, who lives in Kansas, sells some patina paint. She had taught me how to do like the rock dotting. If you've ever seen those, they're supposed to be therapeutic, but my brain was just not having it. Maybe someday when I have more slow down time. But one of the tricks is the first dot you make, because after you've like dipped it in paint, the first dot you make is going to be your biggest because it has the most paint on the end. Your next dots are going to be smaller. So if you want to do like graduated sizes of dots, don't dip your brush or your brush end back into the paint. Just keep making dots. So let me kind of show you what I mean. So I'm going to dip my brush into there, or my tip, I should say, into the back of here. And let's say I want to do dots on this little black heart. So I'm going to make my first dot right there in the corner, and I'll make the two next to it so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. So if you look at the dots on my heart, I know it's kind of tricky to see on this camera, but my very top one is a bigger circle and the ones next to it are smaller. You can of course space this out, or if you want more change in there, you would dot your first big dot somewhere else, come back and dot your thing again. And then that's going to give you kind of that graduated sizing in the dots that you put. And it's so simple. But when she told me that, I was like, okay, now that makes perfect sense. I just never thought about it that way. And so I'm going to add a couple more little dots here and there to kind of add some character to my pieces. And just because they look cute. Let's see, we'll add some over to this heart. It is, and I just, like I said, it was one of those things that after she said that, I was like, I mean, that's so, I mean, it makes perfect sense. You have less paint on there because you used some of it, so of course, naturally now, it's going to be smaller dots, but that just never really occurred to me until she told me that. So, that's how I do my dots now. So, Melody, if you should see this, thank you for being a dot pro. Some dots there. Let's do something over here. Oops, that's a bigger dot than I want. It's there. And I feel like my E and my M need something just because they didn't get any dots because there's no hearts on there. So let's see. My E can have some right here. And my M can have some over here, I guess. So we have successfully added some fun little dots to some of our pieces, mostly on my hearts. I did a little bit on my E and my M just because they didn't have any extra heart frillies, but you can totally add all sorts of details. If you want to add stripes to something, you can use your brush. I do recommend with the brush, if you're going to add those sorts of details, maybe put those on before you glue it. If you need to have kind of the visual like this, just put them in place before you glue them down, because sometimes the glue just, even if you rinse your brush really, really well, it'll get kind of funky afterwards. But that is the other kind of version of the Be My Valentine. So I'll have to take pictures of both of these and ask you guys which one you prefer, or if you liked a whole different color scheme. But that is our main project. Now, if you guys ask me very, very nicely, I will happily paint this one with you guys too on another evening. But really the process for painting this one is exactly the same as your Be My Valentine. It's just a matter of picking colors and deciding how you want to distress your pieces. Like I said, I used the kind of exactly the same thing. I used behind my L, I took some extra white paint and flushed it around my different greens, because you've got 3 different shades of green included with your kit. Sometimes I would take, like, this one has the light green on top of the medium green, and kind of, I don't know, just kind of switch them around to give them different highlights. But if you guys ask really nicely and you want to, I will paint this one with you too. But if not, you've got it. You completely understand how to do it because you've seen it done on here. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out with me this evening. I had some people ask how to get one of these. This box has been sent. It is done. But if you would like to get on the wait list for our next box, which goes out in March, because our box is every other month, I don't want to stack too many projects on you to where you're like, I can't finish all these. So our box is every other month. So if you would like to get in on our March box, the wait list link is in there. So thank you guys. Thank you, Miss Carol. And if you were watching the replay, I would love to see how your project comes out as well. So yeah, I'm gonna hop off up here. I'm gonna go home and see how Jonathan is handling the baby and the puppy and Levi all by his lonesome. So we'll see you guys later. Thanks. Bye.